Hi, welcome to my YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to disassemble a GSG-16 bolt housing and talk about the firing pin safety. Now, why is the bolt in a housing? It's because the receiver is made out of plastic, and if the bolt was to go back and forth in a plastic receiver, it would definitely melt it, if not break it. So that is the reason why it's in a housing. This is the bolt. This is what I mean. See the bolt moving inside the housing? The housing is made out of aluminum. Now, to disassemble this, there's 5 screws, 6-point screws, all on the right side. I already removed them, okay, to save time. And now I'm ready to separate the 2 halves of the housing. Now, remember the recoil spring is under tension, so be careful when you separate the 2 halves. There it is. This is what the right side of the bolt housing look like. Okay. Now, this is a double coil. There's 2 coil, and these are recoil rods. This is the bolt, and this is the left side of the bolt housing. This is the ejector. This thing is the extractor, and this rectangular thing, that is the firing pin. That's a rectangular firing pin. Okay. This is the firing pin safety stud. Okay. And this is the back of the firing pin. Okay, the next thing you do is remove the firing pin. And to do that, you need a 1/16 Allen wrench inserted into this hole right here, like that, and unscrew. And this is what it looks like. It's a very tiny set screw. Just put it there. And then on the opposite side is a tiny little hole, and you need something to insert it through the tiny little hole to push a pin or a stud out. Okay, like that. See that? It's coming out. Okay. Now you can pull it out. After that, you can pull the firing pin straight out. Now be careful when you pull out the firing pin. That firing pin safety stud will pop out because it's under spring tension. This is the firing pin safety stud. This is the firing pin. This is the top side. This is the back side. This is the front side. Okay, and this slot is where this pin was. Okay, the next thing you do is remove the bolt cover. There's 3. Again, they use a 6-point screws, but it's a different size than these ones. And you just remove them. You could remove the firing pin spring by shaking it out. Oh, there it is. It does come out. I just shook that out. That's the firing pin spring, and it has a stud in front of it, and that goes in the front. Goes like that. Okay, I'm going to remove the cover. And these screws are, like I said, they're different sizes from the 5. So you can't, and then and this is what it looks like. Okay. Now this is the extractor. Next you want to remove the extractor, and to remove the extractor there's a pin that goes from the top and it protrudes from the bottom. Now I'm not gonna remove the extractor, but that's how you remove it. It's already punched in, so I don't want to disturb that. So what you would put this in a vise and then punch that pin out coming down, and you can see that same pin from the top goes all the way through. It holds the extractor. See that extractor? And then it comes from the bottom. And then of course you reverse it to put it back in. And there's a spring on this side to give that extractor the tension. Okay. Now before I reassemble this, I need to talk about the firing pin safety stud. This is the firing pin safety stud. Okay, and it goes in here. The spring goes in first, then the stud goes in, and the firing pin goes like this. Okay. Now, there was a guy named Mike. He commented that when I dried fired the GSG-16, he says you can't do that. He says you're gonna mangle up the firing pin. And I said no, this is the new millennia, and you can dry fire 22s nowadays, and the firing pin won't even touch the chamber. Okay, so there's no chance of mangling it up or bending it or whatever. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me remove the firing pin safety stud, and you can see here, if I push this all the way forward, okay, the firing pin all the way forward, the furthest it'll go is lining up with the bolt. It will not go any further than that, okay? And of course, the reason why is there's a little cutout at the bottom which matches inside here, right here, that prevents it from going any further forward. And this is the reason why it's safe to dry fire this G16. I wouldn't do it very often, but it's very safe to fire, and it will not even touch the bolt, and the firing pin would not touch anything, because the bottom of this firing pin engages to the bottom of this bolt. Okay, so that is the reason why you can dry fire. Okay, I also want to talk about this safety stud that's in place. Okay, now the firing pin sits about 1/8 of an inch, about a little less than 1/8 of an inch from the surface of the bolt. Okay, and it will not move forward. If you happen to jar the gun, drop the gun, and the hammer went off, the hammer, the firing pin will not go forward. It will not strike anything. Okay, so that is the safety, and the reason why is because of the safety stud that's been incorporated into the firing pin. And the only way this firing pin will move forward is if this is depressed. When it's depressed, then as you can see, the firing pin is moving forward. If it's not depressed, you can see it's not moving forward, but if I press it, it will move forward. And when it moves forward, it will of course strike the back of the 22. And that is the safety stud there. Okay, so what engages the safety stud? It's this safety plate in the FCG, that trigger housing. It's this piece right here. when you pull the trigger, that pre-travel, the reason why the pre-travel is there is to move the safety plate forward about an eighth of an inch, and that's when it engages. Okay, you see that? It engages. When it moves forward eighth of an inch, it engages, and then shortly right after it engages, you pull the trigger, the hammer goes forward. And that is the reason why you should not tamper with this plate or tamper with the safety stud. I know some people were cutting this off or preventing it from going backwards. When you prevent this from going all the way back, like because you want to like they stop it from going all the way back because they want to alleviate the pre-travel. What they're basically doing, they are moving the safety plate forward over the safety stud, basically disengaging the safety. And that you should never do, okay? There's a reason why they put that in. So that is what I want to talk to you about. I'm going to show you how to reassemble this bolt housing. And to start, you need to take the bolt cover and put the bolt spring in. Now make sure it's the one with the stud goes in like this, okay? And make sure it's upside down, okay, like that. Just basically by itself, put the cover back on like that. Now take one of those 3 screws and screw it in. Like I said, the whole time, make sure you're holding this upside down. Okay. Now insert the safety stud in with the spring. Hold it in. Now put the firing pin, insert the firing pin. Now remember, this cutout right here is where the spring goes in. So you need to put that facing downwards. Okay. Now press the stud till, and make sure you have to wiggle the firing pin till it goes in, and there it is. It's now in. Okay. The next thing you do is take that firing pin, insert it into where that used to be, and then push that in with and then follow that up with a set screw. Okay, now you're all set. Okay, I need to put these screws back in. They go on top. Okay, make sure everything works. Press the safety stud, firing pin safety stud, and make sure the firing pin protrudes all the way forward, and it seemed to work. And tighten the screw a little bit more just before I put it into the housing. Okay, now slide the bolt into the housing like that. Take one of the recoil spring, put it to the lower rod. Come on, get in, get in, get in. And push it all the way in, like that. Okay, the bottom one. Now you do the same to the top. Okay, this is a little trick. Get yourself a dental floss, put it into the recoil. This just makes it easier to, and then pull the recoil spring all the way past this piece right here, okay? And then later on you release the dental floss. It just makes it easier to put this in. Okay, the right side of the housing, make sure the nut is there. That's an important piece. Now, put it in. Yep, make sure that's all the way through. Okay, now once that is done, now separate the two dental pieces of dental floss and pull it out. Okay, now you're in. Everything is good. Make sure the bolt is moving freely, and it is. Now you can screw in the 5 screws. Okay, so that's it. It's pretty simple. So thank you for joining me, and please subscribe.